Hey everyone, I just finished up my RC Powers MiG-29 version 3 build yesterday, and I didn't do a walk around the first time I built my speed MiG that I built just purely for speed. That was elevons only, fairly simple and straightforward. So I thought I'd do a walk around this time to discuss some of my build techniques, and maybe some of it will help you out if you're thinking about building this plane. I've built 3 of the V3s, MiG-29, F-22, and F-18. This is my second MiG-29. I've built 2 F-18s because the first one I built too heavy and the wing snapped off. I've built 3 F-22s because my first 2 F-22s crashed, one due to a mechanical failure, one due to pilot failure. So, but anyway, this MiG-29 I built with a light power setup and all the control surfaces activated because I wanted to be able to maximize its potential for speed and aerobatics. So I'm really excited to fly this because I think it's going to be a lot of fun the way I have it set up. So I found this paint job on the internet. The Luftwaffe absorbed a bunch of MiG-29s from the East German Air Force after Germany reunified, and I found this paint scheme and thought it was just way too cool not to do. So it's not a perfect representation of the real plane, because my skills aren't really, painting skills are not that great, but I think it looks pretty awesome and it should be easy to keep track of in the sky. So it's basically representative of the German flag. So anyway, the MiG-29, I think there's only like 10 pieces of foam once you cut it out. So you've got this one big piece here. That's the nose and fuselage, the canopy. You've got 2 pieces in the center here, a bulkhead and then a center former, which I'll talk about some more in a while. You've got your wing plate. Obviously, if you just decide to cut out the ailerons, then you're going to gain a couple pieces. The intakes are all one piece connected onto the vertical stabilizers, and then you've got the elevators, and then this back deck piece here, which the elevators connect onto, and then this back deck piece sort of slides in and snaps, goes into the 2 vertical stabilizers. So very straightforward, and there's also a little piece of foam in here for the back of the motor mount. So it's a standard park jet built if you've built any of them before. Once you get your pieces cut out, what I did, I put a 4mm carbon rod in the wing for reinforcement, and then I cut and beveled my my control surfaces, my ailerons, elevons, and my rudders. Now, one thing you want to, depending on where you want the actual hinge of your rudder to go, and where you plan on putting your control horn, you just might want to pay attention when you cut them out. Just sort of pay close attention to where your score lines are when you go to fold these over, so that when you fold them over, you don't either end up with your control horns on the opposite side to where you want them, or whatever, because they once you cut the score lines, they kind of only fold one way. So just something to keep in mind. The nose here, like I said, you've got a bulkhead that's right here, and there's a spine sort of former piece that comes up to about here. So up here in the nose, there's actually nothing that this supporting the inside of this nose other than it supporting itself once you glue it together. So I found the technique that works best for me. It's kind of opposite to what I normally do. Normally when I form these noses, I start sort of taping the pieces together at the back, and then gluing little sections, moving forward, taping, moving forward until it's all done. What I found works easiest with this is I sort of push the top and bottom pieces together. Actually, first what I do is cut out a chunk of masking tape, and I just stick it to the table so it's handy to grab when I need it, because once I sort of get the nose formed to where I want it, I don't want to take my hand off there to pull a piece of tape off and then repeat the process. So I do that. This is actually just think some masking tape I get at the dollar store. It's not very good for masking, for painting, because I find the paint bleeds underneath it, but for holding pieces together while they dry, works awesome, and it's cheap. So anyway, so you get your nose sort of, held together the way you want it, and then what I do is I take the piece of tape now that I've got handy, and I wrap it around right back about here, just so it kind of holds everything together a little bit. And then what I find works best is squirt a little bit of glue in down the center here a little bit where all these pieces are coming together, and then sort of press that together till the glue starts to stick. And then if you want to, once that's happening, you can put a little bit more tape over there just to hold those pieces once the glue starts to dry. Then what I do is I go back and, in places where there's gaps or where I need to line it up, I'll put, pieces of tape to hold it together. And then in between the gaps of the tape, I'll run glue. I'll go all the way around the nose, and in each one of the grooves, run my glue. I use this foam tack glue, which is super light, super strong. I don't think I'd ever build a plane again without it, because it's just so great to use. It's a little bit more expensive than hot glue, but in my opinion so far it's well worth the price. So I just do all of that, let it get good and set up, because obviously as you've pressed all these pieces together, if you take the tape off too soon and the glue hasn't hardened, the thing's going to pop open on you again because you've got some tension against the glue until it's set. So just leave it be for a while, go watch a show, have a coffee, do whatever you need to do. And then when I come back, I take the tape off and then glue underneath where the tape was, and that seems to work. It's it takes a little bit of patience to get it formed the way you want, but once you get it glued, you're good to go. And so anyway, the other thing I should say, this top piece here sort of folds over, and there's a tab on the top here. What I normally do before I do that is I cut this. This is the battery hatch, which when you cut the parts out, there's a line there. So I normally cut this off and just set it aside. Makes my life a little easier. What I found also works easier is before I glue this top deck piece on, I've always found on both the planes, I found that to get my CFG, my battery is going to be fairly far forward here. Up against the bulkhead. So before I glue this top piece down, I put my Velcro down on the bottom of the turtle deck here first, so that I'm not trying to stick my big fat hand up in there. Just makes my life a little easier. So a little pre-planning there might help you out. It certainly helped me out, rather than trying to jam my hand up in there. So once you got the nose glued together, it just sort of slides on to the wing plate. One thing to note here, that just to keep in mind, this little tab right here is part of the piece of foam that slides in here for the motor mount. And this piece, or this section of the bottom of the fuselage, I just leave that unglued until I get the little motor mount piece in there. Just because the first time I built it, when I glued this on first, and then I went to put this foam motor mount in, it sort of was a bit cockeyed and not as aligned as well as I'd like. So this time I put that in there first, aligned it, and then I glued these seams right here, because these aren't going to be in the way when you do that. So anyway, once you got that together and glued, then the next thing that goes on are your two intakes. They just fold over, fit into some tabs and slots, and then the last sort of piece that goes on is this back deck part here with your elevons attached. I put a little bit of carbon fiber reinforcement in here just to try and cut down. When I built my first one, there was a little bit of flex in this back deck here, so I wanted to put a little reinforcement in there. I already talked about the reinforcement I put in the wing, and then the only other reinforcement I always reinforce all my my elevons on all the planes that I build. I just put a little bit of carbon fiber in the elevons to keep those strong. And then that's pretty much about it. I I went with a 6 servo setup, so I have, these, I just used the cutouts that were on the plan actually for the aileron servos. So I've got my aileron set up. My Elevon servos are actually in backwards if you want. The control horn is on the inside here, running back, and then I have my linkage stoppers so I can adjust my Elevons on the actual control horn. I learned on this one, you got to be careful sort of where your control rods are running so that your prop doesn't hit them. I've got, I don't know, maybe an 1/8 of an inch clearance from the tip of my prop and my control rods, which might be a little bit too close, but I think I'll be okay. So just be cognizant of that if you decide to sort of do this technique that I did, that before you glue the servos down, make sure that you're going to have clearance from your prop. And then I went with, these are 9-gram nylon gear servos on both sides. Push rods are just made out of carbon fiber, 2mm carbon fiber rods with some clevises, nylon clevises from Hobby King. And I used, these are just little 5-gram servos here. I did modify, you can see I did open up the prop slot quite a bit here. I did all of that, measured it off, and did it actually before I installed it. It's just a lot easier to cut it than, because once you get it installed in here, in between these two vertical stabilizers, it's a little hard to work on. So I did all my measuring and cutting and beveling before I put the back piece on. So what was I going to say? Oh, okay. So I used these are 5-gram nylon gear servos for my rudders. My rudders I modified a little bit from the plan. Normally they would sort of angle here a bit, but because of the way I was going to have my servos set up, I'd be running the control rod at an angle I didn't really want to. So all I did was I just measured. I went straight across. This little piece on the bottom here I think is about 3/8 of an inch wide, and then I just went straight and then just joined the line there. So I might have a slightly larger rudder surface than stock, but it works out great for my push rods and my control horns, so that I can run my servos. All my hinges for my control surfaces are foam tack, and then I've been finding on my Elevons that even with lighter motors, the foam tack after several flights can start to weaken on me, just probably because of the extra stress that it gets in the prop wash. So I've just been putting some transparent duct tape. I like how the foam tack sort of gets your seam nice and tight, you know, and then I just put the tape on there as a sort of a backup, and just to keep that working out great for me. So for my power setup, I'm using the Focal Price 2700 kV motor with a 6x3 EMP. I did some pretty significant testing with this motor a few days ago on the low ESC setting. With a 30 amp ESC, I'm getting like 19 ounces of thrust at half throttle for I think about 11 amps, and max thrust darn near close to 36 ounces of thrust. So based on the weight of this plane, it's at 520 grams, just over 18 ounces. I'm about a 1.9 to 1 thrust to weight ratio based on those numbers. So I think it should be pretty quick, and my wing loading is 5.4 ounces per square foot, I think, so super lightweight. So my battery compartment, I've got a 30 amp Turnigy Plus speed controller there for my motor. I went with a 5 channel receiver that's compatible with my Turnigy ER9X, and I just ran my rudders with a Y harness, because this receiver saves me 10 or 11 grams over the 9 channel Turnigy or 8 channel Turnigy. So I'm not planning on using the rudders as V brakes or anything fancy like that. So I did that setup, and my battery is located where it should be for CFG. I'm going to go with a CFG on my first one. My CFG ended up being 2 7/8 inches from this point back here. So I'm going to maiden it with about 2.5, 2 5/8 and see how it goes, and then adjust from there. These are another modification I made. They're, you know, maybe a little bit bigger than they need, but I should get really good cooling in there with this air flowing down through the battery bay. I put KF4 airfoils top and bottom. I'm really liking using this dollar store foam, and I find with the even airfoil top and bottom, my planes are, the way I like to fly them anyway, I find they're just a bit more stable. And of course this stuff is cheaper than Depron, and it's much easier to sand and work with. So anyway, I'm just going to power down, or just pause my camera here for a sec, power up my plane, and I'll just show you the control surface setup that I have. Okay, so here we are back with you. So I've got, I've only got about 70% throws on right now. So elevator, elevons, and ailerons working together. So that should give me some pretty insane roll rates on this plane. I've got full throws on my rudders, and on my ailerons I have them programmed on a switch as spoilerons, just to you know, in case I want to do some high alpha and allow me to do some slow flying. Just find it helps keep the plane more stable when you've got a little more spoiler on there at slow flight. So there we have that. Let's make sure my prop is clear. So, ooh. So that sounds like a bit of a beast for a motor. So I'm looking forward to seeing how this performs. So I'm just going to pause again and shut it down, and then I'll give you my closing thoughts. So there you have it, folks. There's my second RC Powers MiG-29 version 3, done up in German Air Force colors. And like I've mentioned my weight before, so I'm looking at some pretty serious performance and aerobatics out of this plane. So I'm pretty excited to get it up in the air and get flying. I should have mentioned I didn't use any filler at all. All I did was I just took my knife and beveled down all of my joints, my leading edges, and all that sort of stuff as much as I could, and then I just sanded it as smooth as I could, just to get it nice and smooth. I think it looks good, and it'll help cut down on aerodynamic drag, and it also helps you save a little bit of weight too. So anyway, if you have any questions about any of the stuff that I've talked about, or anything like that, please leave me a comment on the YouTube channel, or if you're a member of the RC Powers website, you can shoot me a PM, or just post something on the MiG-29 version 3 thread. So thanks very much for watching. Appreciate it.